Well, hello and welcome to another Faith, Philosophy and Life. Me, Mr. Shelton. I do hope that you are doing well. I'm sure that you are. And if you're not, well, I hope that you feel better soon. Today, we are thinking about a big question. Rather than, we've looked at abortion, we've looked at euthanasia. Today, we're going to think about more of an ethical issue with regards to wealth and poverty. And we're going to spend the next few lessons thinking about that as well. So what you're going to need is a large piece of paper, an A4 bit of paper or a double page in your book if you've got your book, and you're going to create a mind map. And on this mind map, it's going to be two things. One is, why is there poverty in the world? And the second one is, do we have a duty to resolve it? And you're going to be adding information to your mind map as we go through this lesson. And a lot of this is your reflections, and that's entirely the point. But it's for you to be thinking about. So first thing you need to do is to pause me while you get that mind map drawn out. Maybe write some thoughts down already. If you don't know what poverty is, well, that's going to be interesting because we're going to learn that as we go. And do we have a duty to resolve it as well? So pause me now, and when you're done, you're going to unpause me, and then we'll have our cheesy intro music, and then you'll come back to me. Okay, so big question for us today is to think about the word wealth, and what do we understand about this word, and what do you think Christians think about this word as well? And we're going to be thinking about that today, so make sure that you've got some understanding of what the word wealth means. Wealth isn't just to do with money, it's to do with your possessions, it's to do with how you are in relative to other people as well. So yeah, there's lots of stuff with wealth, and we're going to be unpacking that. But let's just start with some very quick questions to see what you know. Okay, so which do you think is more expensive? Do you think that it is the pair of shoes, or feeding a family of four for 3 meals a day for a month? Okay, that's your question, and I'll be interested to know what you think about that. Okay, the answer is in fact the shoes. It costs a family of four. You can do it fairly a decent amount for about £400 a month. I know some people might be screaming at this point, that's a bit cheap. Yes, it is, and I'm not talking about certainly buying high quality bestest stuff that you could for that. But for about £400 a month, you could feed a family at a push. But those shoes are 600 quid, which is obviously more expensive. Right, let's look at this one. Which is more expensive? Is it a life support machine or a half-hour interview with Wayne Rooney? Okay, so there you are. There's one for you to be thinking about, and I'm going to go over that in a moment. For those of you that have said the life support machine, you probably are right, but, and there's a big but with this, a life support machine costs between £25,000 and £60,000. That's a lot of money. A half-hour interview with Wayne, £26,000. So a half-hour interview with Wayne Rooney is more expensive than a life support machine, the cheapest life support machine that is. So anyway, that's quite a shocking stat. Okay, what about this? A ticket to see Take That on their comeback tour, whenever that might happen, or to give clean water to an African village for a week, which is more expensive. Okay, the answer is going to have to be the Take That ticket. Clean water for an African village often costs around about £30 a week. In terms of Take That tickets, they're normally between £50 and £100, but obviously on reselling sites for those people that do their risk those, they're a heck of a lot more. And lastly then, what would you say is more expensive? Would you say it is immunisation or the iPhone 12 Max Pro? Doesn't take a genius to work this one out. So immunising 10 children in the developing world or the iPhone 12 Max Pro? Okay, shocking this one. I'm sure you already worked it out. Immunisation is the cheaper out the two. Immunising someone costs about £25 per child, so 10 children would be 250 quid. The iPhone, £1,099. Yeah, 1,000. Now, I haven't got an iPhone 12 Max Pro. I'll be well frightened about dropping that. That'd be ridiculous. Anyway, there you are. That's just a thought for you anyway about what's more expensive, because when we're thinking about wealth and we're thinking about poverty, you can see a massive divide here. So our title today is what should we think about money? What should we think about money? So our learning objective is to explain what a need and a want is and to explore Christian attitudes towards the use of wealth. Let's get that down. And when you're done, you need to come back to me. So just pause me and I'm going to be carrying on. It's going to be good if all of you could say what the difference is between a need and a want, and most giving examples of each. And it's going to be good if all of you could simply state what Christians think about the use of wealth, with a few of you giving a few more details on that as well. So let's just do a little bit on need and wants. I'll be interested to know if you can work this out. A computer. Now, in our current climate, this may well be slightly different because you're online learning, but is a computer a need or a want in the UK today? Okay, a bottle of water, is that a need or a want? And a car, is that a need or a want? Now, a lot depends on your definitions of needs and wants. So we're going to get a definition in your book. So a need is something that you must have in order to survive. That's your definition of a need. So please write that down. A need is something you must have in order to survive. So think about examples of things that are needs in this world. What do you need to survive? Make a list now of things that you think you need to survive. If you didn't have them, you simply would die. So pause me now and try and come up with a list of things. Maybe try and come up with 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. How many? What do you think's a need? Okay, so a want then is something that you don't need to survive, but it would be quite pleasant to have. It makes life a bit easier. So give it a go on a want then. Define what you understand by the term want. Okay, so examples of needs are going to be things like food and water and shelter. Okay, that is a standard definition of what a need is. Now, I know you can argue that a computer's necessary in today's world, broadband's necessary in today's world, and all of those you could potentially argue as needs, but you'll still survive without them. You wouldn't necessarily be able to learn well, and you certainly wouldn't be able to watch me, so I suppose there might be a benefit in that. But they are all needs. Wants then would fit everything else. So a nice shiny car is a want, not a need. You can survive without it. I know you could start to argue to say, oh, but what in this situation or what in that situation? And yes, that's the whole point, isn't it? I suppose that there is that debate going on. But you need to work out what the difference is between a need and a want, and there's obviously some sort of variation and argument you can put within that. So wealth then, this is a picture of, I just googled this on what wealth is, and you can see there's lots of different examples of wealth. Quite often people put it as money, but it can be painting, it could be artwork, it could be a house, it could be anything that has value. And that's what we understand by the term wealth. So when we think back to this, why is there poverty in the world? Poverty is where there's an inequality and some people are poor. Poverty is another word for being poor. So why is there poverty in the world? And do we have a duty to resolve it? And that's really where we're turning now. We've thought about wants and needs, and we've thought about that wants are really important, because wants are this concept of what we would like, whereas a need is what could cause poverty. If you didn't have a need, if you did have needs and they weren't being met, then that's where life could come into issues. Now, what's really fascinating is that the choices that we make as consumers, the choices that we make as people who buy things in shops, and that's what a consumer is, have a big impact on other people. You might say, well, no, they don't. I just literally buy them in the shop. But then in terms of their processing, their learning, the way that the people make those things and where they're made, all has a huge, massive impact. So let me just demonstrate this for you. So where do you think a football is made? Where do you think a football is made? What country would you say a normal football is made in? There we are. So Pakistan, the struggles of workers making footballs for the FIFA World Cup. You can see here. You may want to pause me and have a good look at this. I'll just scroll down so you can read more of it, but I'm not going to read it out to you. More than 70% of the world's footballs are made in Pakistan. It's a brutal exploitation of the local working class. So basically, people are not being paid a good amount of money. Considering that the World Cup footballs will retail for as much as $150, they are not being, the people are not being paid that amount of money. Children quite often get involved with making them. And they'll be paid pittance for it. Okay, iPhones then. Where do we think iPhones are made? Yeah, I'm sure that you probably know iPhones are generally made in China. So here we are. Chinese factory where half of the world's iPhones are produced. And this is a story of people that actually generally live at work. To travel around in China is very difficult. It's very spread out. So people generally live there, which is just shocking, really, if you think about it. They rock up and they do the job. They work hours a day, and then they just camp out somewhere and then come back as well. And you can see here the article as well. Poor working conditions, harsh penalties for workers who make mistakes. Yes, I'm sure things have improved since this article, but it's 2.2 miles. It's amazing to think the conditions of some of the things that we might buy. Okay, and plastic then. Plastic toys. Children's plastic toys. What do we think? Where are they made? Okay, you see, I was surprised by this, and this is the information. The majority of plastic toys are actually made in the USA, and that's because of the quality that's needed within them. They were sent overseas to be made, but it was actually found it was a lot cheaper to make them in the USA and then export them from the US. So there you go. There's interesting facts for you. So we've thought about now where these things are made. We've thought about footballs, iPhones and plastic toys. The next thing then that I'm going to think about is something called fair trade. Some of you may have seen the fair trade symbol, a little green symbol that's on the side of bananas and chocolate and things like that. Now, when you buy products, you have a choice of how to buy some of them, not all of them, but some of them. You have a choice to buy fair trade, and you have a choice to buy standard, for want of a better term. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write down the price of how much you think you would pay for these products. So I'm going to show you a picture, and you're going to write down how much you think you would pay for that in a shop, both as a standard price and a fair trade price. Now, fair trade prices are more expensive because what happens is a premium gets added to them. So the people who were involved with the manufacture of that, or the creation of that product, will actually get paid a fair wage. So rather than people in the UK, for example, that get paid a decent wage because of the minimum living allowance, when you go overseas to buy things, no one's controlling how much people might pay in some countries. So it might mean that a t-shirt you might buy, the person who put it together might only get paid 1 or 2p for that t-shirt, but you might spend £5 or £6 on it. If you got fair trade, you might spend £8 or £9 on it, but then the person gets paid that £2 or £3 extra. So fair trade is a way of trying to balance out some of the issues that we've got in the world around us. So how much do you think 10 bananas would cost, both in normal standard prices and fair trade price? I've not made any of these prices up, by the way. Okay, so let's see. So you need to pause me if you haven't done that, and then I'm going to go through those prices. So a standard price of 10 pack of bananas is £1.59. Fair trade price is £2.40. Would you pay the extra, I wonder? I know some supermarkets do it a lot cheaper than that. So Aldi, I know, not that I'm advertising Aldi, sell their fair trade bananas a lot cheaper than that. But again, just a case of keeping a lookout for the stickers. 2 litres of ice cream. Okay, now I know you can get different quality ice cream, but 2 litres of ice cream, what would you pay as a standard price and a fair trade price? Okay, standard price is £1.35. Now, Ben & Jerry's is actually fair trade. All Ben and Jerry's products are. So that would be £4.80. Okay, but again, remember that money's being passed back to the people who manufactured, the people that looked after those cows, those dairy cows. Right, football then. We've already talked about footballs already. So how much would you pay for a normal football, and how much would you pay for a fair trade football? Okay, so a standard price of footballs, if you want a nice leathery one, it's £7.49. Fair trade price is £12. Right, let's look at this. My favourite food substance, chocolate. What would you pay for chocolate? Okay, standard price is £1. You know that for those Dairy Milk fans and Galaxy fans. Fair trade price for the same amount of chocolate is £2.39. Would you pay the extra? I don't know. You get a lot less chocolate if you had the same amount of money. But you're helping people out. You're giving them a better life. Right, look at this one then, coffee. How much would you pay for a jar of coffee? A standard price is £3.95, and the fair trade price for this comes in at £4.60. So there's not a huge difference. And then lastly, toilet rolls. Who would have thought you could get fair trade toilet rolls? But what's the price of toilet rolls, and what would you pay for the fair trade price for them? Okay, so the standard price of toilet roll is £1.75, and the fair trade price is £2.80. Would you pay the extra just to flush it away? Anyway, so this is kind of where we're going with the rest of this lesson. I'd like you to think about fair trade and how it makes a difference. So I'm going to ask you to answer that question in your book. What is fair trade and how does it make a difference? You may need to do a little bit more research, but obviously we've gone through quite a bit together today, so you should already have quite enough notes. So I need some keywords, I need maybe some Bible quotes that might be used about why Christians should look after other people. Think treat others as you like to be treated, love your neighbour. Have a look for those quotes. For those of you that know what I'm talking about, look at tall item quotes. You've got stories about people making a difference. So you might make a little story up about someone who works really hard, but because they get paid a poor amount of wage, then their children can't go to school. Or maybe someone who works and they get money through fair trade and they live a much happier life. And why should people buy these products? So it's kind of like a little advert for fair trade is what I'm asking you to do, in essence. So you can structure this as you want. If you want to do some pictures, you can do some pictures with it as well. You've got the rest of the lesson. I don't know how long that's going to be, probably about half an hour or so. And then come back to me literally just before you finish, because I do want to just go back to that mind map. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so why is there poverty in the world? Do we have a duty to resolve it? That's where we're ending today. Make sure you've gone back to your mind map, you put some more ideas. Thanks very much for your time. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, wash your hands, God bless you, and I'll be seeing you soon.